This is Niko. He's a 15-year-old football player who plays for SC Heerenven in the Netherlands. He's a midfielder and he plays in the under-17 team. Now this is what he looked like on the 15th of July, the day we started training during his off-season. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you what he looks like, so stay tuned. In this video, I'm going to cover the training that I did with him in the 3 weeks of off-season before he headed back to the Netherlands. Remember, this is not a jaw-dropping transformation. We only had 3 weeks to get him stronger and fit. But there's a lot to learn from this young athlete's determination to be better and to get a head start in the coming season. I will walk you through what we focused on, how it's going to help him, and why did I do it. A little bit of background is important when it comes to Niko, and before we get started with the video. I started training him in Vancouver in June of 2023. The main aim at that point was to keep him injury-free and maximize his availability for a game at any given point in time. Since he is a midfielder, one of the main aims was for him to be light on his feet, agile, and ability to take and give pressure to the opponent. So get him stronger. So our training was primarily plyometrics for explosiveness, impulse training with kettlebells or barbells, and quite a bit of power and hypertrophic training. Although he ate well, I still coached him with his nutrition, hydration, and supplementation to make sure he recovers faster and is always good to go. His in-season nutrition intake was somewhere around 4,000 calories a day. Majority of it were carbohydrates followed by proteins and fat. Now obviously these numbers change when you're off season as well and what your goals are. Also remember, timing of nutrition is very important for athletes, but more on this probably in some other video. Then in December 2023, he left for the Netherlands to pursue his dream of becoming a professional football player. I managed to program his strength training and continue to coach him online so we can make sure he was good and adapted well to the environment over there. By the end of the season, he was asked to join the older team, the under-17 ones, when the new season starts. So good for him. Fun fact, the head coach of SC Heerenven main team is Robin van Persie. His eyes will be on the younger athletes to be put into the first team. So let's see how things turn out for him. Now last month he came to Vancouver to visit his father and he had only 3 weeks. And the day he landed, he rested the next one and then he was in the gym with me. So my number one motive was to get more muscle mass on his upper body. And 3 weeks is not a very long time to get amazing gains, but still you can make a lot of progress. So I went with a 5-day training in the week with 2 days of double sessions. The evening sessions that we had in the week were followed by a pool session and a sauna session for recovery. And we did a lot of plyometrics and recovery work in the pool, whereas sauna sessions lasted somewhere from 30 to 60 minutes to make sure that the body recovers and is good to go the next day. So now let's break down Niko's training step by step. So let's focus on the upper body power. If we take chest, we did a lot of bench press, contrasting them with a bit more of explosive movements like the medicine ball throws in various different positions. We did lying med ball throws, as you can see. We did standing forward throws, floor medicine ball throws, and standing med ball throws on the wall with a little bit of rotation. For power, we did a lot of clapping push-ups, a lot of Superman push-ups, and I went in and challenged him to do a little bit of more jumping push-ups where even legs come off the ground. So really trying to train the mind to fire quickly. The stretch shortening cycle will have a significant carryover to overall athleticism. Now also increasing the difficulty of applying plyometric in the push-ups, it gives a significant impact in terms of muscle activation, which affects the muscle strength and size in the long term. For the back, a lot of single arm cable rows, slightly explosive, but you can't only put them in the power back category because your hips are also involved, your core is also functioning, your biceps are also involved in this exercise. But for now, I've put them in the back power one. Did a few pendlay rows with momentum to make sure we can explode off the ground heavy weight also similar to impulse training. And we did a lot of landmine rows as well, single arm. Unfortunately, I don't have the footage for those because I was really focused on his form and making sure that he does them right, so I couldn't record it. Overhead med ball throws is a great power back exercise because the lat activation is significant and the lower back stability is required, so it trains that as well. Don't forget, it is very important core exercise. Upper body hypertrophy, strength and endurance. Let's talk about this now. This is where things got really interesting because playing with the rep ranges were important. We'll start with shoulders since they weren't covered in the power one. We did a lot of overhead barbell presses to make sure we target all three deltoid muscles. The rep ranges was somewhere in from 17 to 25, even 30 at some point for 5 to 6 reps. This is an example I'm giving that we've actually done. What this does is it builds the muscle endurance and then promotes muscle building as well. The photo you saw earlier of Niko, his before photograph, shows that his shoulders were actually underdeveloped, so we had to focus a lot on them. I also introduced him to behind the neck press because I wanted him to learn this technique so we could move towards behind the neck jerk press. So a lot more of on the athlete day, which we will discuss later on. We also did shoulder press isometrics in a seated position, so constantly pushing into the bar and working those shoulders. The reason I did seated was to eliminate any leg drive and just fatigue the shoulder out. Now coming to back, we did a lot of pull-ups, neutral grip, underarm chin-ups, overhand. I thoroughly believe that chin-ups or pull-ups is the best back builder, and I have seen it time and again with young athletes that they really struggle to do that. We did it till failure. We focused on full range of motion, so really coming down and stretching out those lats. And this is where I will also mention biceps. One of the things I've seen young athletes struggle with when it comes to pull-ups or chin-ups is their biceps fatigue quicker than their back muscle. So then we actually did supersets throughout the training period where they're doing pull-ups, they wait for a bit, they do some hammer curls, they come back, they change the grip, they do pull-ups, he does pull-ups again. We kept on doing those. So we did bicep training with dumbbells in the form of curls and hammer curls. We did it with cable, with the rope attachment. Doing exercises like chest supported back rows and lat pull downs were also part of the workout to add more emphasis to the back. And once you reach that mechanical failure, so that you have those cables to help you out and then extra support to stabilize the body. For the chest, bench press for volume, we did not go very high in weight. We went for volume. Again, rep ranges from 17 to 25, trying to work on that endurance, lightweight, a lot of repetitions to focus on that chest development. We did incline dumbbell presses on his chest day. To focus on the eccentric, we did seated cable crossovers to safely load up those joints since he has not done this movement before. Again, I will talk about triceps as a supplementary muscle group over here because its involvement in the push movements. So a lot of tricep push downs on the cable, close grip bench press and skull crushers for the long head development. We also did single arm tricep extensions with cable. So now this phase of training is one of my favorite ones, the impulse day. Before I begin, since Niko is a football player, I needed to make sure that no part of his explosiveness or speed was affected. Although our primary focus was on the upper body, but we cannot ignore the lower body and the speed component. So the reason I call it impulse day is we are trying to move heavy weight fast so we can keep that quick reactivity and explosiveness alive in him. His leg day was not volume based, but it was more speed and strength based. So some of the exercises that we did were front rack reverse lunges. So the reason I like the front rack a lot is for the upright trunk position, because in top speed this is what you want. Then we did rear foot elevated split squat, again in a front rack position, so going in and out of that squat position as quick as possible for lower reps. So I would say 3 on each leg, 4 on each leg for 4 sets or 5 sets, depending on how he feels that day. Hang cleans with Niko, I had introduced him to Olympic lifts last year itself, so we keep building up on it, and it is great explosive movement to come out of the hinge. Barbell shrugs was one of them. Hex bar shrugs as well, and then heavy hex bar deadlifts to make sure that that leg drive is good and he's comfortable with it when it came to training. Now I'll combine athlete day and the core because both are involved together. We do a lot of plyometrics, rate coding work, make sure reactivity is good, training the nervous system so that it can fire quick, and force absorption work, because as an athlete we need to make sure that the athletes are able to absorb force optimally and avoid injuries. Some examples are the seated hurdle jumps. We did weighted jumps. One of the best exercise is the single leg knee tuck. This is insane amount of explosiveness, and especially if you want to develop speed, this training single leg is absolutely crucial for athletes. Great amount of explosiveness. As mentioned before, I also introduced him to behind the neck jerk press. Since we were trying to open up that scapula and externally rotate those shoulders, it's a great variation of the Olympic lifts. Then we did a lot of depth jumps. Again, force absorption is very important, so we did a lot of depth jumps to the point that we ended up jumping from like a 5-foot box as well. But yeah, force absorption is absolutely crucial to land in that position, in that quarter squat position, and then continue to explode. Again, plyometrics has always been a strong point for Niko, because we've been training it for the last year consistently, thoroughly, and he has become faster over the period of 1 year. For the core, it was targeted holistically. We went from a performance standpoint where we did a lot of rotational work, because since I've been working with him, I know where he lacks. So we really needed to develop that force production in the transverse plane and the rotation. So we did, and to strengthen his oblique slings, so we did medicine ball throws and cable rotation work every single day without fail. This allowed him to work also on his hip pivoting, so change of direction is also good in that side. For aesthetics, because he's a young kid and he wanted a good looking midsection, we did lower core work, so scissors, heels to heaven, hanging knee tucks, etc. Last but not the least, the pool session and the sauna session. So doing plyometrics in the pool is a great way to avoid extra stress on the joint. Since he's in off season, we had to give his joints some rest so that he does not fatigue when he goes into pre-season training. So because water has buoyancy, it makes it easier for you to jump but still keep firing. We did a lot of aggressive joint movements to open up the hips and the shoulder capsule. We didn't do any laps because that was not part of the plan. We weren't trying to work on any endurance or anything. It was primarily just muscle building program. And the sauna to reduce muscle soreness, improve muscle recovery, and for mental fortitude. I was with him in the sauna, or constantly keeping an eye out on him. Some of our sessions also went to 45 minutes. It gets hard, but sometimes you have to push through, not to the point that it becomes barbaric. I was keeping an eye on his hydration level as well, but then also just to see how much can you push yourself. And there you have it. Now at the end of 3 weeks, this is what Niko looks like. A lot more definition on his back, on his midsection. His chest looks better. Definitely has put on some size on his arms. This video is not about the transformation because it was just 3 weeks and we tried to do the best. But it's commendable how this young man, who was just 15 years old, decided to put himself through such a hard time in his off season where he could be enjoying. A lot to learn from him as adults or as youngsters who are out there, boys or girls, who are trying to get better, who are trying to make it professional in a sport. Hard work is important. Put your head down, get to work. Please don't be harsh to him in the comment section. He's just a young kid trying his best. If there's any fault, that has to be mine, not his. Learn from him. If you want something specific like this to help you get better in your athletic journey, you can always reach out to me in the comment section below. And as always, I'll see you next time.